Dave, first question for you. When you saw that Higgins and Pittman came off the board right off the bat in the second round, yet with you having your eyes obviously on Shenault, was there any inkling on your part to maybe try to trade up in case there would be a run on receivers, or did you have enough other players in mind that you didn't let it worry you?
Yeah, we actually had enough players in mind. Um, we felt like we felt that as long as receivers were going to go that weren't Laviska, we were going to be happy with that because he was the guy that we kind of had targeted there. Um, and and if by chance he did go, we had enough players there where we even felt good about possibly trading back and still getting one of the players we liked.
And also, could you talk a little bit about Devon? Didn't play a high volume of snaps at Ohio State, but seemed to get a lot of production when he was in there.
Yeah, well, his production per snap is really good, and like Coach Marrone said, this is a guy that's got we've been missing since we've lost Marcel with his injury, a big body. That's why we went out and got Al Woods, and now we got a young version of Al at 6'4", 320, a guy that can hold the point. And we'll have a really nice rotation in there with those guys, him, Avery, Taven, and we wanted to get bigger up front and protect our linebackers and Joe and Miles, and now we got LeKayvon, Chase on. So we feel good about front seven, and that's an area we want to improve, and plus we had a corner on day one.
A question for Doug, if I may. Doug, could you talk when you look at the picks, particularly getting Chase on and now getting Devon? Are we going to see? Is this maybe a signal that we're going to see a little bit more elements of a 3-4 defense from you guys next year?
Yeah, I think for sure on base downs, you'll see more of our Sam linebacker on the ball.
All right, thanks, Gene. We're going to go over to Josh Robbins and then Mark Long. And if you could just keep it to 2 questions max so we can get through everybody's. Josh, you're off mute. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dave and Doug, nice to meet you. Thanks for doing this.
Sure.
Thank you. Let's say CJ, Caldwell, Devon all develop as you hope they will develop in time. How do you envision the identity of this defense progressing, and what do you see the identity of the defense being a couple of years from now?
Well, the number one identity that we've been talking about as the identity to be able to stop the run. So in order to do that, you're going to have to be big up front, you have to be physical, and you're going to have to be able to tackle. And that's something that's hurt us. This is something that we put a priority on. So that's what we put a priority on it, and we did it in free agency, and we continue to do it as we work our way through this draft. I think that, we were able to go out and get CJ Henderson, who's a corner that we feel is a number one type corner. He's a big guy. He can play against guys and he can really run. So he can play against guys that have speed. He can play against guys that are big and try to outmuscle him. Because at the same time, we want to be able to cover, on third down and let our rushers go. We feel that, we've got, 3 outstanding rushers right now, and we think we're going to get some really good push in the inside with a nice rotation there. A couple guys really came along. Smoot came along for us, is going to help us. Gunther's going to be a guy that can help us, and these big guys that we have are going to be able to create push. And I think, Taven took a good step near the end of the season, and we expect him to take another step and really develop as a better 3-down player, a better pass rusher. So, that's what we're going to be.
Thanks, Josh. We're going to go over to Mark Long and then D-Rock.
Yeah, Doug, going back to the offensive side of the ball, Laviska, obviously his numbers and his tape show that he can bring a lot of different things to the offense.
Right.
How do you envision, do you think you guys will use him kind of as a little bit of a, Swiss Army knife?
Yeah, I talked to him. We feel obviously he has the size and the speed to play outside. After we had drafted him and I got on the phone with him, both Jay and I had a plan. We talked about how, we're going to do and how we're going to use him. And I told him, I said, look, we have some plans. I mean, he's a guy that you can put him in the backfield. He can play Wildcat. You can put him as an F tight end. You can do a lot of things with him. And you see it on his tape in 2018 and 19. That's one of the things that we looked at. We went back there and I said, look, we can do all those things, but the whole key is going to be how well you grasp it, how well you pick it up. Because if he can, make no mistake about it, we want to be able to do those things.
Thanks, Mark. We'll go over to D-Rock.
Hey, I got the thumbs up from Mark.
Big.
It was big.
D-Rock, and then John Reed. So go ahead, D-Rock.
Dave, Mark Ellens was in earlier. He said you guys have been on Shenault for 2 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what was the things that you really liked about him, and the production last year? Obviously it dipped a little bit. You just attribute all that to injury, correct?
Well, yeah, I think so. And when, as you guys know, our scouts, they're already working on next year's draft. And by this time summer comes along before the college season starts, we already have grades on probably about 400 or 500 guys on next year's draft. And coming out of this time last year, he was our highest rated receiver. And when you look at his 18 tape, and he was the guy we've been targeting and looking at, following, and you saw his play dip, and when you realized some of the reasons why, the kid is tough as nails, and he played through some things that players at our level haven't played through for the course of a season, and went through it all, went through the postseason, went through the combine, got his stuff taken care of, and we feel like any issue that he had will be taken care of by the time training camp comes around.
All good, D-Rock?
Yeah, I got one more for Doug, if I can. Sorry.
Yep, you're good. Go ahead.
You feel like you've rebuilt that defensive front to the point now where you feel much better about it, after losing Calais, after losing Marcel?
That's what we're trying to do. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be that guy that, oh yeah. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. I mean, we have players that have the potential to do that. There's no doubt about it. But now we're gonna have to put the work in, and we're gonna have to earn it, and then we're gonna have to show it, and we're gonna have to prove it, each week. But I am excited. I think that, like I said before, I mean, we've got to be able to hold the point. We've got to be able to stop the run. That's going to help us win football games. So I think that we're doing everything we can to get that done. I think that we've remained consistent, in what we've talked about. I think we've have shown that we're committed to that, by what we've done. And I think it's like anything else. People can talk about stuff, but your actions are going to speak louder than your words. And I think what you're seeing right here is that, hey, we talked about it, and that's what we're trying to get done.
Thanks, D-Rock. We're going to go over to John Reed and then Demetrius Harvey. Go ahead, John.
Okay, Dave, you had spoke in your introduction there about just staying true. How has it been that you and Doug to just stay true on hitting your draft board, and you sticking to those needs that you need to fill, not so much looking at a guy who might drop down to you that's talented, but not feeling a need. So
yeah,
is the process been different kind of this year, with you guys working together from the get-go, and what has it been like so far after 2 days of hitting these targets like you have?
Well, the process has been really good, and it's been really seamless and enjoyable on my part with our coaching staff and our personnel staff. Good dialogue that where everybody can speak freely and not be judged. But I think every draft is different, and I think you guys have all read the reports of this draft being deep, and I don't think any person in the league would probably dispute that. So our goal was we have 12 draft picks, and we didn't want to be flippant with the picks. And it's easy to be like, well, I got 12 picks, so let's use this pick to trade up and trade that. But we're like, well, let's just let the draft come to us and still get talented players that fit our culture, fit our locker room, that can come in and compete at a high level. And I think, although there's been times where I'm like, maybe we should give a 5 to go up and get this guy, or somebody made the point of, T. Higgins and Pittman going off, and like, okay, is this the start of the receiver run? And should we go get Laviska? And we thought about it, and I think we just said, hey, let's stick to the philosophy of this year's draft. I'm not saying that's every year's draft. That next year may be different, but with what we saw on the board and where our board was set, and I feel good about our board, and sure enough, they've come off. Our personnel staff has done a great job, and our coach has done a great job and helping us set it, and they've come off like we've kind of thought they would have.
Yeah. And this is for Coach. Coach, do you feel right now, I mean, you got 4 picks in, 3 of them, I believe, is defense. Do you feel if you need to address some offense that there's still talented guys over the going into this day 3 that you can find who you need or whatever your needs are that you can get those addressed?
I feel like we're going to have players that are going to have traits that are going to be able to get that done. We're not done yet. I think that a lot of times there's so much attention, John, that gets put, obviously in these first 2 days with these first 3 rounds, and there's high expectations for these players, but and I understand that. But for me, now we're going into these later rounds where we've gotten some good players in the past, whether it's in later rounds or free agency, and I think there's a lot of money to be made. You know what I'm saying? I mean, with these players, and that's what Dave and I talked about. I mean, we're going to go in there hard and take a good look and keep these conversations going. That's the one thing that we've had. We've had a ton of dialogue throughout the day, prepping for these days, prepping coming up to it. Coaches and scouts, and I really believe that just because of all this dialogue and all this talk, we're not necessarily going to always agree, but it's very easy when everyone's talking to see where we should go. So I'm excited about that, but I never want to be like, oh, okay, we did a good job. It's not even done. I mean, we've got 8 picks still left that we've got to work just as hard and really focus on getting those guys just as hard as we did in these early ones, and finish this thing strong and get ourselves a real good core of players.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, John. We're going to go over to Demetrius and then Shipley, who each had a question. We'll start with you, Demetrius.
Hey, guys, I appreciate you for doing this. This is a question for Coach. Laviska kind of said that he met with Keenan McCardell at the Combine, and pretty much he said that he's good anywhere overall. What sort of feedback did Keenan give you guys, and how much did you lean on him in his sort of evaluation of Laviscus?
Yeah, I mean, Keenan's a guy that's played the position. He's always done a very good job of evaluating the receiver position, along with our scouts, and has always done a good job of developing, guys in that position. So, he's great insight. So anyone that has great insight and that is a good evaluator, you're going to listen to them. So, it's part of the process. Our scouts are in the school talking to those coaches. Our coaches talk to them. Jay Gruden has to look at them, see, how he likes them. I've got to look at them. So there's a lot of things that go on, and Keenan's obviously going to play an important role in this kid's future. He's going to be in that meeting room. He's going to learn from him. He's going to work, and he's going to become a better football player. Just because he's got a good coach. Like Keenan McCardell.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, Demetrius. We'll go to John Shipley and then Sam Kavaris.
Hey, thanks. This is for Dave. Dave, did you guys have Laviska as a first rounder? And if not, how close was he to that grade on your guys' board?
Yeah. So John, we don't, unbeknownst to a lot of people, we actually don't put round grades on players, but that's a good question. And every team's different. We kind of set the board based off of what we feel a player's value is. And we thought he would be what we call a 3-down starter for us. So we thought he was a starter, and then we kind of placed him in the ranking order. But we would have had no issue taking him in the first round, if that answers your question. Obviously, he had the skill set, like we said, off of his 18 film. He was our high. We thought going into the season, he would have been in the mix with the Jerry Judys and the CeeDee Lamb and the Ruggs of the world. Unfortunately, he still had a very good season. It was just a step down from what he did in 18. And then with the receiver class as big as it was, and I just think that he kind of fell by the wayside a little bit, but we were happy that he did, and we were happy to make him a Jag.
Thank you. We're going to go over to Sam Kavaris and then Mia O'Brien.
Thanks, Dave and Doug. Dave, have you been reluctant to use what you termed ammo earlier in the week or last week? Or is it just you're sitting there waiting, like you mentioned, and the guy you want ends up literally there? Because almost every time you've spent 0 minutes waiting around, you guys have turned the pick in right away.
Yeah, I think I haven't been reluctant. I just felt like that we've had options at every pick. And as the pick gets closer and closer, and you're like, okay, well, we feel good about these. There's 2 picks to go. And we feel good about 3 players or 5 players. So there's no really need to trade up. And there's been enough players that we've liked. And I keep reminding myself and also our personnel staff that just because, and to Gene's question yesterday, Gene said, well, the top 4 tackles, everybody's board's different. And our board's different. And the players, even though we have them ranked and we look at it, we're like, hey, they're going to come off like this. That's not how it works. And especially when you start to get in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and these later rounds, you're going to see guys come off that you're like, wow, that's not anything how we had them ranked. And that's okay. But I think that's where you think, everybody's board's ranked identical, and it's not. So I think sometimes patience pays off.
And Doug, you having been an offensive lineman in this league, if you're an offensive lineman on the Jaguars and you see your team pass on some elite offensive lineman early on, are you telling those guys, look, you're it, you just got to get your act together this year?
No, I think we have some good competition and behind those guys right now. And like I said before, we're not finished. I think that, Will Richardson, we've got to get him locked into a position. Tyler Shatley obviously has done a good job for us. There's some younger players that we have that, I'm looking forward to see how they progress. I know they're working hard. I know they've been working from after the season. They all have. So, I just think it was a position where, we looked at some players and just felt that, like I said all along, I think those players have a lot on their plate to make sure that they improve. I mean, we've said that. We really think they're going to make a big jump. I'm excited about it. I think George Warhop's one of the best coaches, that's in the league coaching the offensive line. He was with him for 1 year, and I said before, and we all know that it's all on those guys up front, to step up. But there's still a couple of guys that are on this board that I think have the ability to come in and compete, and we'll see where they are when we pick.
Mia, if you're okay with it, I'm going to go over to Brent for his question now. He's got to be live on television in 4 minutes. So Brent, if you want to jump in now, go ahead and then we'll get you going.
All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Be real quick. 2 quick ones. Dave, or Doug, where is Shenault health-wise? Is he going to be okay heading into the season, coming out of this last year?
Yeah, he's fine now. He's cleared now. Our team docs and our training staff have a good grade on him. And he had a very minor procedure done after the combine that a lot of our players have done at the end of the season and stuff like that. So he's good. He's running routes. He's out there moving around and speaking to people around him and our doctors felt like that this procedure he had, it really is going to make him right, make him whole and correct a lot of his underlying issues that he may have had throughout the season.
Thanks. And Doug, we've seen from some of these guys, whether it was Henderson, I think it was Grantham said might be the best guy he's ever coached at that position. I think about Shenault, Mel Tucker said some of those kind of things. Is it unusual to hear that glowing remarks like that from the coaches you talk to? I mean, are these guys different in that respect, or do you get a lot of that when you're talking to coaches?
Well, I think, you talk to them and everyone's a little bit different. I think that, they've had a lot of great things to say, and that weighed in quite a bit, obviously into our evaluation of these players, whether they're, not, maybe they're not as vocal, but they work, they lead by example, or, they're vocal, or they're going to, you never have to worry about him. They're not, you get a lot of that. And, when they're good players and they're guys that have been good in the locker room and good, on these college campuses or in their community, I mean, then really what that means is now you can coach football and the whole focus could be on football. And I really believe when you don't have a lot of things going on the outside with this person, that whatever it may be, you know, and you can totally focus just on football. You've got a chance when you're in the building. You got a chance to be a pretty good player. Same with coaches. Same with anyone that's in that building. So, you know, we just got 4 guys that are focused on football and being good teammates, learning their teammates, earning the right to play, and competing for a position.
Thank you.
All right, before we go to Mia, thanks, Brent. Before we go to Mia for the final question, I was going to jump in and ask one to Dave. There's been a lot of questions over the last couple of weeks about the technological issues around the draft, and today there was the first mute fiasco of 2020.
Yeah, with our last pick, and I was yelling at Mark Ellens and telling him to answer me, and I didn't know if I was on mute or if he was on mute. That one?
Yeah, but we got the pick in.
We got the pick in, barely.
All right, we'll go down to Mia to finish this off here.
Well, that's a good segue. I was just going to ask Dave, I know we've kind of talked about having the trade ammo, you having moments, especially in that second round where you thought about trading up, but by far and large, it seems like the whole draft, there really hasn't been as many trades as we were anticipating. Do you think that's a byproduct of the virtual nature, or just that this board has been going pretty chalk or puzzle, you know, as a puzzle, it's kind of just fit together for everyone?
Yeah, I think teams probably, like we said, it's a deep draft, and teams probably feel they don't need to make as many bold moves of going up and trading. And, you know, sometimes teams do because they have their heart set on a guy, or you've seen some teams like the Saints that traded a future pick to come way up for a pick, and maybe more so wanted to get a guy a year early. But I think by and large, it's because you have multiple options at virtually almost every position. So it'll be interesting to see as the 4th round starts to go, 5th round, see if there is any more trading. I know last year there was a lot more trading than in years past in the later rounds, which I thought was odd, but because normally, like I said, normally you feel like everybody's board's different. So in the 5th, 6th round, and you're better off usually staying put, and you'll probably get the guy you want. But other than that, it's been good. And outside part of the deal too with the mute fiasco is I was actually on the phone negotiating a trade, and so time was running short, and I was trying to make sure Mark had the name if I didn't agree to the trade, and sure enough, we didn't agree to the trade, and I want to make sure. So it was actually kind of funny, but we got it in.
Thanks, Mia. We had a late request from Hayes for the final question, so we're going to turn it over to Hayes to finish this off here.
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen. Dave, I just was curious. There's multiple reports about Leonard Fournette possibly being on the trade market. Can you give us any information in regards to Leonard's status with you guys?
Yeah, I don't, to be honest with you, Hayes, I don't have a whole lot to add. I don't think there's any news there. And I think if there was, we'd probably give it to you.